not a remembrance of the crucifixion, and so that actually seems a little backwards to me. Just from my own standpoint.
Yeah, isn't it Good Friday, technically, when he gets crucified?
Right, well, it's sometime before Easter, but I remember in
the
churches I was at, that was not the focus of Easter. Easter was supposed to be, this is the moment of victory where Christ comes back to life.
Overcomes death.
Right,
well,
exactly.
The really surprising thing is how against crucifixes the Mormons are, because they don't want to be reminded of this. Yeah.
It's not about Jesus' death, it's about Jesus' life. The fact that he died for us is important.
But then they would produce that video.
Well, and it's that this is sort of the one time of year when you take a look at that, when you focus on that and what he did and what happened. I mean, you tell the story, you hear about it, but you make a big focus on this, but otherwise try to focus on the life and what he did and what he said and what he taught and what he whatever. But it's the crucifix itself is almost, I don't want to say morbid, but is sort of
it is morbid.
It is morbid. It is, but in the Mormon Church, it's not that it's morbid per se, but it is. I mean, it's viewed as something that is. This is not all that he was. He was an example of how we were supposed to live and whatever. But yeah, we would watch that, and I would pretend to cry, or I would force myself to cry, or I would cry because of guilt, because I was supposed to be crying, I was supposed to be feeling something, and I wasn't feeling something. But I was starting to recognize that I didn't actually believe this. I was just sort of going through the motions. So I finished through seminary to say that I did it, and ended up deciding that I wasn't going to serve a mission because I wasn't going to go try to teach people about something that I didn't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, in order to graduate seminary, it meant that I had to read the Bible, the Old and the New Testament. I had to read the Pearl of Great Price. I had to read the Doctrine and Covenants. I had to read the Book of Mormon in order to do it. And reading.
Were you actually tested on verses and things like that, or?
So they do scripture mastery, where you're supposed to have very specific verses, 20 verses, 15 verses, whatever, per year that you memorize. First one in the Book of Mormon, I think they have you memorize, is 1 Nephi 3:7, which is, I will go and do the things the Lord commands. I know He provides a way, He wants me to obey, whatever. That's the song, not the verse. But yeah, you have things you memorize that you have to test off and prove that you've memorized these.
Okay.
But,
I was just wondering.
Otherwise, just happen. Yeah. So the Book of Mormon reading was really a turning point for me, because one of the scripture mastery verses, in fact, and the big missionary verse, I mean, the Mormon verse is chapter 4, verse of Mormon. The two are going to get confused for me. Anyway, it's the one that says that if you should read these things and pray about them with pure intent, with conviction, that you'll be told that these things are true, then you'll be told that they're true, type thing. And it's the missionary one, because it's the one they use. They go out and they talk to people and they share with people and they say, look, after all you've learned from us, then pray about this and you'll feel it, and you feel that burning and that spirit and whatever, and then you'll know that this is true and this is how you want to be Mormon.
But it sounds like the verse says you have to believe it's true, and then if you read this and say, please show me this is true, which I already believe is true, then you'll be shown it's true? Is that not quite how it's worded?
It's said, it's not ask, is this true or is this not true? It's ask that these things are true, and you'll feel that confirmation that they are true. It is very much about that. And the goal that was put in front of us is that everyone will have his or her own conversion. I mean, it's the Mormon equivalent of being born again. You'll have this moment when you'll pray on this and you'll feel it, and you'll have it, and it'll be there.
But the Spirit will specifically communicate with you. Is the idea.
The exact term that's used over and over and over and over and over again is that you'll feel a burning in your bosom.
Right.
And so I did it. I mean, I read it for the class anyway, so I sat down and I prayed and I asked, and I didn't get it. I didn't burn.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have it. And so I asked again, and I prayed again, and I cried, and I said, tell me that this is true, and I didn't get it. And for a long time, that was a really big deal to me, because the question for me wasn't, why aren't these things true? I mean, everyone else around me, everyone in my life, for me, everyone was Mormon. I mean, my friends were Mormon, my parents were Mormon, my family. Everyone else in my life had done this, had prayed, and had had this conversion. And I was, I was in charge of my class in seminary, and I would listen to kids get up and say, last night I got to that point and I prayed and I felt it and I burned and it was amazing.
Right.
And I didn't get that. So the question for me, when I was a kid, was, what have I done wrong? What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with
that I'm not going to be told this, that I don't get to be shared this? Is it because I touched myself? Is it because, did I do something wrong otherwise
Jesus hates
in
you
my
because
life?
you touched yourself.
It was certainly something that was on my, I was in high school, I was not
And
how
old, at the point where you were going over this and you were trying to read and get this conference, how old were you?
I would have been about 16 or 17 at this point.
Right.
So
you had already done some damage to yourself and come through that, and now on top of a physical pain and an emotional pain that took you to a place where you were willing to hurt yourself, now it was this, I would see this as, from your standpoint, you're like getting this confirmation that you have not lived up to some kind of expectation.
Yes. That despite all of my best efforts, I was not going to be told this because the Spirit wasn't going to communicate with me because I had pushed it away, kept it away, that I'd done something. Why I wanted this? Why wasn't I going to get this?
Mm-hmm.
And in an interesting, I think I ended up feeling so horrible about not having it that I felt like I could fake it till I made it.
Mm-hmm.
Fake it till you make it. So I told people that I had. Oh yeah, I had that too. I think it's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's amazing. I feel so. And
so this is literally the Pascal's wager of, even if you don't believe it, go through the motions because the payoff is worth the risk and the idea.
For me, it wasn't a salvation issue though.
It's just
in retrospect, for me, Mormonism was so social. I live in Utah. Like I said, everyone was Mormon for me. I didn't recognize, now, 40% of the population in Salt Lake is actually LDS.
Right.
It's less than 50%.
And might not even be active.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. But in my life, everyone was, and I thought everyone was. It was always portrayed to me that those few people who are not are few and far between.
Right.
You won't find that. So. It was a social thing for me. If everyone else around me was getting this and I wasn't, what was wrong with me? And I don't want people to know that there's something wrong with me.
Right, yeah.
I don't want anyone to know that I'm not getting this when they're getting this. They're getting up and saying in front of the whole class that they're getting this, but so I'm going to do that.
That's how everyone
I got up and I said, well, and that's it. That's what I recognize now, and that's what I feel guilty about now, is how many other kids in that classroom there listened to me say it and thought, wow, president of the class, so involved, leading things, feeling that. And then they hate themselves because they're not feeling it, they're not having it. And years later, as I've talked to people about that feeling and that whatever, I've had so many people tell me, well, nobody actually gets that. Nobody actually feels that. Nobody really gets that. And I've heard it from people who left the Mormon Church, which made me say, oh yeah. But last October, 5 months ago, I called my mom for her birthday. We had a conversation, and I think since it was her birthday, she felt she finally got to ask me about, my atheism and some of what I feel. And I told her that story like I told it to you now. That not the one about hurting myself. She still doesn't know that. But the story about praying and not feeling it. And she said, Eric, nobody gets that. Nobody feels that. And yet she's at a point in her life now where she's completely active.
Right.
Completely active and absolutely believes it, thinks she believes it wherever she's at. But
I'd actually like to talk to her now with the Quran reading and the Torah reading and how is it that she went back to the Mormon Church? That I would like to have that conversation.
We've had that conversation in many ways between she and I, and I don't think we went and saw the Da Vinci Code, she and I, when it was in theaters, just to get out and go do something, see something. And, she'd given me her copy of the book, so we both read it. We decided we'd go see it, and afterward we had a conversation about how, in many ways, that whole idea is more compatible with Mormonism than it is with most other things, because Mormons don't believe in the Trinity. They believe that you have to have a family in order to be exalted, which would mean that Jesus had to have a family.
Right.
He would have to have been married, potentially had a sexual life, whatever, and had kids or whatever. So there was a time when it came up when I kind of asked her, why is it, I care deeply about my mom. She and I have some very difficult issues that we still try to come to grips on, but I asked her, why she is Mormon, why she's still Mormon, why she can go with anything else when she'll whatever, and her response was sort of, well, you can't teach an old dog no tricks.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've always done. This is how I've always done it. I don't even know how I would do it otherwise at this point in my life. So I keep doing what I'm doing because this is where I am. I mean, for her, it's just personal tradition and family tradition. I mean, she feels, I'm sure, as much as I do, that I mean, I'm not, but her mother is, her father is, her siblings in many ways are. I mean, my family has changed a lot from the time when I was the black sheep and the only person who was not going to church, or the only person who didn't have faith. But yeah, I mean, she basically said, I don't know how to do it any other way, so this is what I keep doing.
That's always fascinating.
I feel like a lot of people are probably trapped in that idea of this is just how it is, and what would we be without it? And I think that it takes bravery to step away from that and find out what you would be without it. So
But the bigger thing to me is just the fact that it's the most important decision in the history of the universe. If you believe in religion,
right,
it's the absolute end-all be-all of things that you can make a decision on.
Decides your eternity.
And decides your entire eternity. And meanwhile, people are like, well, my dad did it, so why not? I mean, that's a lot of how people do it. It's they stick with what they're raised in, and it's like they don't actually ponder this most important question. They just accept what's comfortable, and that's it's so kind of unself-reflecting. But anyway, I digress.
In studies that have been done, psychologically, we know, I mean, that people don't make decisions based on rationality. When you go to buy a car, salespeople who are smart know this, and they gauge your reaction. And when you start to click with that, that fast red, whatever it is that you're looking for, then they say, even when you say, well, I should look at another car, they take you over that one and say, yeah, I mean, I know this isn't that little red Thunderbolt that you were looking at, that you were in love with previously, but it's very economical. It can be a smart money, and they reinforce that emotional decision in you, because all decisions we make are emotional, and then we try to justify them post hoc to say, wait, this is why I do this.
Yeah.
So when you're raised Mormon, you're told that it's true. You're supposed to think it's true. Your family says it. Everyone around you says it's true.
Yeah.
Then you believe it on an emotional level, which means you'll justify it logically after the fact. Even if nobody ever gets that feeling, Eric, you're still willing to say, but this is where it is. This is how it's true. This is why it is what it is.
Very interesting. I think our time is just about up. I would like to offer to you, we would like to keep you on tap for later episodes. We're going to go over in the future some more things that LDS people believe, and where the facts lie with some of those things, and what the church apologists have to say. And being that you were president of your class and got your seminary diploma, you are certainly more knowledgeable than we are with the specifics of what Mormons believe and why, and we'd love to have you back in the future.
Always be willing
to give commentary.
Definitely.
So that's where we're going to call it today, but please go to outcastzion.com, join the discussion on our forum. We'd love to hear from believers and non-believers alike. And for now, that's all from us.